It is Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, 5:05 p.m. This Board of Commissioners special meeting is called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Here. Commissioner
Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Douthard.
Here.
Is there any public comment? Have you gotten any electronic
No, I did not.
comments come in? Okay. Okay, the topics for tonight's agenda. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't see you out there.
Welcome to the new commissioners here. Chuck Dillon, 529 Lillian Drive, the heart of the Crystal Island project. First of all, thank you, John, for implementing your clean up the beach projects. That's working very well. One thing that I would like to see if we could add with that, for the rental properties, they have no idea, and also the rental properties also don't have any ideas about dogs on the beach. So if we could implement something that all the rental properties have to make their people aware of what our rules are, that would help immensely. We still have, Doug's familiar with our beach area and where we go all the time. They have dogs that come out from those properties, so they don't really pass any of the signs. But if we would have all of the rental properties that would have to implement or have something for their guests that these are our rules, that would help immensely. Also with the cleaning up of the beach, keeping things clean. And then finally, the millage rate. Even though it is just a little bit, I don't know why we have to do just that little bit, and I'm just saying it now because getting it out here in the open. All the other beach towns are way down, so I don't know why ours would have to be creeping up again, and if this is going to be a yearly thing. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Agenda item topics. A is Ordinance 2020-22, establishing tentative millage rate for year 2021. Mr. Laughlin.
Do you want to read that?
Mayor, if I can go ahead and read the ordinance first.
Okay.
Is that acceptable? So this is Ordinance 2020-22, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, establishing the tentative millage rate for the fiscal year 2021, providing and announcing the name of the taxing authority, the rollback millage rate, the percentage increase over the rollback millage rate, and the millage rate to be levied, and providing for an effective date. Whereas Florida Statute Section 200.065 requires the adoption of the millage rate by separate vote and prior to the adoption of the budget. And whereas Florida Statute Section 200.065 requires that prior to the adoption of the millage levy ordinance, the following be publicly announced: the name of the taxing authority, the rollback millage rate, the percentage increase over the rollback millage rate, and the millage rate to be levied. And whereas in no event may the millage rate adopted exceed the millage rate tentatively adopted, now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, Section 1, the name of the taxing authority is the City of Madeira Beach. Section 2, the rollback millage rate for fiscal year 2021 is 2.5973 per $1,000. Section 3, the fiscal year 2021 proposed millage rate is 31.72% higher than the rollback rate. Section 4, the millage rate to be levied for fiscal year 2021 shall be 2.87500 per $1,000. And Section 5, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. That was a reading of Ordinance 2020-22 in its entirety.
Is there any comment by the commission on this?
Well, I would like to know the definition of the rolled back millage rate for fiscal year 2021. What does that mean? Because that figure has never been our millage rate, so.
Sure, I can address that, and there are a couple substantive issues that I'm required to address as part of the public hearing, so I'll address all at once. So first of all, what the rollback rate is. The rollback rate is what that ad valorem rate would be for taxes to be essentially the same from last year to the current year, so no tax increase. If we kept the millage rate the same from last year to this year, that could potentially still be an increase in taxes because if you have rising property values.
Got it, okay.
So typically, if we want to keep taxes level set from the previous fiscal budget year to the upcoming budget year, that rollback rate might be less than the millage rate from last year if you had rising property values. So that's what essentially that rollback rate is what that millage rate would be to keep ad valorem tax revenue essentially the same as the prior year. So just to publicly disclose the issues at hand as required in the public hearing, the percentage increase from that rollback rate is 31.72%. For that millage rate of 2.875, and then the reasons for the ad valorem tax revenues, why they're increasing, and really they're essentially to help make the general fund to support its operations. So a couple major things in the general fund. One, we had a $1,174,000 transfer to the stormwater fund in order to help assist the stormwater fund with its debt service obligations. So that, in conjunction with the ongoing operational requirements of the general fund, that millage rate increase helped balance the budget for the general fund. So that's the reasons, as I'm publicly disclosing, for the increase in that millage rate. And so that's what this ordinance will do to tentatively adopt that millage rate.
Okay.
And if there's any other,
Wasn't here to
and if there's any other,
hear that, but that's okay, okay.
if there's any other questions I can address, I'm happy to do so.
I'm good.
I'm good.
So I would think we need to vote on this.
Yep. You need to open it up to the public first.
Is there any public comment on this?
Yep.
Any email?
No mail.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 2020-22, establishing the tentative millage rate for year 2021. Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
No.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
No.
The motion is 3-2, carried.
Next on the agenda is Ordinance 2020-23, adopting the tentative budget for year 2021, fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020, ending September 30th, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, if we got our city attorney read the ordinance into the record.
Yes, please.
This is Ordinance 2020-23, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting the tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021. Did I say 2021? It's October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, and providing for an effective date. Whereas Florida Statutes 166.241 requires the adoption of a budget each fiscal year, and whereas the amount of the available from taxation and other sources, including balances brought forward from prior years, must equal the total appropriations for expenditures and reserves. And whereas at a minimum, the adopted budget must show for each fund, as required by law and sound financial practices, budgeted revenues and expenditures by organizational unit, which are at least at the level of detail required for the annual financial report required under Section 218.32(1). And whereas the adopted budget must regulate expenditures of the municipality, and an officer of a municipal government may not expend or contract for expenditures in any fiscal year except as pursuant to the adopted budget. And whereas the City of Madeira Beach tentative fiscal year 2021 budget is balanced, is presented at a level of detail required to file the annual financial report, and shall regulate expenditures of the city for the period beginning October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, Section 1, the tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, attached hereto as Exhibit A, is hereby adopted. Section 2, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. That was a reading of Ordinance 2020-23 in its entirety.
Thank you. Is there any comment by the board?
I've got a few questions I'd like to ask. I do not understand. If you could explain to me, we're outsourcing human resources and we moved Karen into a different position. Is that correct? So we kept her salary, in other words. Is that correct?
Correct. Karen has moved to finance.
Okay.
Or
So,
will be moving to finance.
okay. So we are keeping the person, we're just not keeping the position, correct?
The position will be the HR position will be outsourced.
Okay, but we are keeping the person. That was.
But we're
Second question.
correct.
Second question is, why are we not doing the same thing with the information officer position? Why are we not moving that person also? Why are we not looking for a position within the city for that person as we did for Karen? Can somebody explain that to me? Is it because we don't, the job he did, or what reason are we using to eliminate the position as well as the person?
I'll take this. if
Go
you
ahead,
don't mind.
John, you sure?
John, if you had been paying attention during our multiple discussions about the budget, you would know that Karen's position was half in finance and half in HR. So we weren't going to do away with her as a person, I guess. We're only discussing positions up here. So it's a complete, you're comparing apples and oranges there. We did away with the position of the public information officer because that was a relatively new position. It was difficult to balance this budget with all the debt we've incurred with the stormwater and everything else Andrew has discussed. And we felt that we could reduce, the number of employees by one and have that particular position absorbed by others. So now each department head will be in charge of, drafting up any kind of announcement they want to make, and the city manager will have his assistant draft up any kind of announcement that he needs made, just like it was before we hired that person. So it wasn't so much getting rid of the person, it was getting rid of the position so that we could balance our budget.
Helen, I have listened, and I did understand that she did work part of her salary went to finance and part into HR. Excuse me. But we're also eliminating that position for the information officer, excuse me, and then hiring somebody part-time to come in and redo the same job. It just doesn't make sense to me to bring someone in that does not know the city and what's going on to do that, and then if we're trying to cut money, then why are we spending $58,000 on a feasibility study? All these things just do not make sense to me. We're saying, we're going to save money, we're going to cut, but then we go out and spend money like this. The two just does not make sense. I'm sorry.
Well, we're doing a feasibility study so that we can build a high-dry marina so that we can generate revenue for this city. Should have been done a long time ago. Feasibility study is required for us to proceed with the high-dry marina, and I stand behind that. There is no one being hired to take the place of the public information officer. That position grew and morphed to where It was taking on more responsibilities that others have done in past years and lightening the load on other people. The other people need to carry their load and do those responsibilities. For HR is being outsourced. The HR director is being moved back into finance where she has always been. And this, Andrew, I'd like you to go over the figures on this. As I understand it, we're saving the city $30,000 by this move.
Correct, from my preliminary figures, yes.
And we're also, we're moving somebody out of finance to the front desk of City Hall. So we're actually creating a position in finance and moving Karen into that position while still doing payroll and benefits.
Right.
So, yeah.
We're not increasing headcount in finance.
What's that?
We're not increasing
headcount. Yeah, I think that's what Commissioner Douther's getting at. Yeah. Why are we eliminating one position, not eliminating another? Frankly, we're not actually eliminating. We're only position that we're eliminating is the Chief Information Officer. That position is being eliminated. We're not eliminating finance. HR. We're moving somebody back into finance, and we're, and frankly, we just, we had the conversation last week. I think the HR number is a little high, but I think Commissioner Price hit it right on the head. We've got to clean up some garbage from the past, and maybe next year that number won't be as high if we can kind of get it under control and at least moving in the right direction. If everybody follows the charter, probably don't even need that position. All right, we may need somebody coming here part-time just to make sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. But, yeah. But I understand where you're coming from, Commissioner Douther. If it's just going to be a straight cut and it's a budget issue, that's correct. And I think that any feasibility study that is going to create revenue for this city long-term is worth at least taking a look at, especially if it's only, $50,000 is a drop in the bucket, right? So.
Is there any public comment on this?
We didn't have any email comments.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to pass ordinance 2020-23.
Can I stop us real quick? I just wanted to comment on one thing real quick before we, I will second it. I just want to comment real quick. If you guys noticed, and I know you guys are, I've harped on this Marina thing, but I don't know if you guys noticed that Andrew, we lowered the revenue number for the Marina by about $200,000. Is that? Thank you. That makes me sleep better at night. I'm going to still hold my personal conviction, not a direction, that we do need a change of scenery at the management level there, because we are embarking on a very, very big project, and we need people that are skilled, that know how to run an entire marina. But I do think this is a step in the right direction. We can always come here in 6 months and say, hey man, these guys are killing it, let's increase the budget. That's always a fun day to have. It's never a fun day when we're going the other way, because then we're scrambling trying to find places to cut in order to hit budget. So thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you doing that for me.
Okay, I have
and
a
I will
motion.
second the motion.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Douther?
No.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
Motion carried 4-1.
With no other business tonight, this meeting is adjourned. It is Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, 5:45 p.m. This Board of Commissioners workshop agenda setting meeting is called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks,
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Douthat,
Present.
Okay, first on the agenda is reporting city matters. Any input on that? Additions, subtractions?
Yeah, that was me. I just feel like, and it doesn't have to be discussed at every meeting, but I would like to get an update on what we're doing with grants. You know, what have we applied for? What have we received? Or, you know, are we in the running, kind of a thing? The same thing with any litigation the city is involved in, just a very overview from our attorney that something is ongoing or something is now resolved, kind of a thing. An update every month on large construction projects and things coming up. I'm hearing rumors of hotels in Johns Pass and things of that nature, and I'd like to know if those things are in the works or have been applied for. And then also the collections from Attorney Matt Widener. I heard from a resident that a house next door to him that has been in very, very, very poor shape for a long time finally got auctioned off to pay taxes. And he goes, I think the city just got a windfall. You know, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. Does that money go to the city? I have no idea. So I didn't know how to respond to him on that one. And this house was really falling apart. So it went up for auction. Somebody, you know, paid for it, and I just don't even know what we're doing with that, or if the attorney's done anything good with it. And like I said, this doesn't have to be a big discussion, but maybe we could just have an ongoing, you know, something in our packet or something that kind of keeps us abreast of that kind of stuff. So
It's good by me. I think accountability is, you know, paramount. So, and a lot of these things are, you know, we've heard, I've heard it multiple times since I've been up here. Oh, we're working on a grant, we're working on a grant, we're working on a grant. And I think, you know, I don't really see a whole lot of grants being executed. So, I really like that one. I think the litigation is something we should all be being kept up on. It doesn't have to, does it have to be every month? I guess if something changes on it, it does. Yeah, there's a lot of construction projects going on. Yeah, I'm all for it.
I like it too, and there's a couple of things I'd like to add to that. It's on the same thing, but
yeah, and
that's the marina. Although I know it will be slow at first, I'd just like us to be kept abreast of updates on what's going on with the marina, with you know, particularly with respect to the hydri. Also, talking to the Coast Guard about the bridge, Tom Stewart Causeway bridge timer, and on the shoaling up of Johns Pass. See where we stand on that with our letter to the Corps of Engineers and any feedback from that, or Charlie Crist's office, or anything we're getting on that, just on a monthly basis so we can stay on it.
John, I'm sorry, you were talking about the dredging of the pass or the extension of the groins, right?
The extension of the groins, the extension of the jetties.
Right.
So that not only are we getting the sand out of the pass, but we're stopping it from coming back in, because if we do nothing but dredge the channel, then
no, it'll come back.
It's going to come back.
Yeah, I've never seen it like it is now.
So I'd just like to see updates on that and keep,
John,
you know.
when you were talking about the bridge, were you talking about Tom Stewart? Were you talking about the bridge at Johns Pass itself?
I'm talking about the channel, the Johns Pass channel, where all the sand is coming in under the bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
And filling that in.
Okay.
So I'd just like to be kept abreast of what's going on those also. Any other comments on that?
Maybe we can just narrow it down during the next meeting, what we
at the,
I don't, if I may, I don't have a problem reporting on any of these to you. We do some internal reports, and so it's not really, I've already spoken with our city attorney, so we'll have something for you. We can put out the first of each month, and that way you have the information ahead of you.
Well, I know, citizen Bob Preston is always saying, what's going on, and this would be one way to address that.
Yeah, and it can be brief, Bob. It doesn't need to be pages long. Just
Right.
We just want to know that we're progressing on things. The next one is brainstorming of new ideas to save the city money, stretch our resources. Commissioner Price, this one also has your name on it.
Yeah, I'm just always trying to think of ways
You're on a roll.
to get more income and to be able to spend it on beautiful things for our city. So I would like to have a discussion with you all about better use of our parking enforcement and code enforcement. My thought on that was basically, are we doing any kind of nighttime, are we ticketing people that are staying overnight in our parks and things like that? I mean, that seems, I have citizens telling me that there are cars in city parking lots overnight all the time, and if that's the case, let's start ticketing them, or I wouldn't mind discussing being able to put a boot on a car that is somewhere for 2 days without being moved after you give it a warning or some. I mean, there's got to be some ways we can address some of this, the parking things and the pocket parks.
Well, the one question I have, you listed here about selling the sandbags over in John's Pass. Is this something that you want to do now, is sell the sandbags? Because we used to get...
No, I want to sell the sand. I found out that sand is quite the commodity. And that like Miami is right now redoing a lot of their beach sand. And they're buying it from like Fort Myers and trucking it over. And I'm thinking, well, heck, if we're going to dredge out John's Pass and we get all this sand, that could be a revenue stream. I didn't believe it until I talked to somebody in Tallahassee about it, and she goes, oh, yeah, sand's in demand, good sand. And I'm like, we have the best sand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dr. Beach is always saying,
Oh, because we
our
get other
area,
cities.
Fort DeSoto,
Yeah,
so if we're dredging it out, let's let's have somebody pay us for it and take it away or whatever.
Yeah, we get other cities that come down and get their sandbags, too.
I'm talking about bulk, huge amounts.
I know what you're saying there, yeah.
You know, that they want to renourish their I mean, they got to get it from somewhere sometimes, other than just pumping it from further out in the Gulf of Mexico, which is just like the Sahara Desert under there. It's nothing but sand. But if we're dredging it anyway, maybe we can sell it. And that's something I wouldn't mind looking into. And then the other thing on garbage pickup, I noticed on our budget, we got $45,000 of overtime for the sanitation department, and for this year, or for year 2021, it's going to go up $70,000. And, I mean, really, do we need garbage pickup on Christmas Day?
We don't.
No. I mean, I'm assuming that we're paying these people double time to work on a holiday. They should be home with their families. I don't think it's necessary to pick up on holidays, especially if it's, 55% increase on overtime is expected for next year. I probably should have brought that up during the budget, but I didn't think of it.
I think the only 2 days is Thanksgiving and Christmas, right?
Those are the 2 days they have, holidays they have. I mean, I really don't think we need it on Labor Day. I don't think we need it on a lot of these holidays that we're probably paying double time. So these are just things that come to my head, and I wouldn't mind bouncing them off you. And if you think it's a good avenue to go down, I'll do a little more research on the sand and,
Okay.
That's all.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, also along the lines of looking for avenues to raise money, we have a lot of private parking lots, and some of which have been causing some concerns and some problems. And, Linda and I have been looking at a process that they utilize going back to Miami, but where they have parking districts and the revenue is shared with the local municipality. So we're looking into that too. to see if that's something that might be worth our while.
Okay, and, yeah, and they need to get some very visible signage up that those properties are private, they are not City of Madeira Beach parking
Yes.
lots, so.
It'll probably take us to do some type of an ordinance and tying in the towing and so forth in it.
Okay.
And then the next thing on here, the approval of credentials, desired by the, Linda Portel. I think we've already, I put that down before I realized we were going to be filling in some spots on our planning, commission. But, to the extent that needed to be approved or something by anybody, I thought her memo was very good about the experience needed to be on that particular, commission. And I thought we should officially pass it, but that may kind of be moot after tonight, but
Okay.
that was it for me.
The next one on here is, backyard chickens. I know. And it was brought to us by one of our residents, so it was, they were told that it would be put on the workshop to discuss, so there it is. We'll discuss that at the next workshop. She actually brought a lot of data, and hopefully she will be around to make a presentation to us about this at the workshop. So, any other comments on any of this?
No.
Mr. Mayor, I have two items I'd like to add. One is to set us up for the decision in October, but it's dealing with the Broyhill, which is the beach trash truck that we're going to purchase with the garbage cans to make it easier to access the beach and get rid of the garbage. And then the other one is dogs on the beach. We have some innovative ideas.
Oh, good.
Okay, is that everything? Okay, if I can have confirmation by the city manager.
Yes, starting with the items for reports, we'll be submitting to the commission on the first of each month an update on our grants, the status of litigation, the status of different major construction projects within the city, a update on the collections from Attorney Matt Widener, Marina Updates in reference to the operations and the high and dry, the Coast Guard timing issue with the Tom Stewart Causeway Bridge, John's Pass dealing with the impassable conditions sometimes with the sand, and the groins and jetties. Then on brainstorming new revenue sources, we're looking at overnight parking, sanitation pickups involving the holidays, and selling of dredged sand out of the pass. And then a discussion on credentials for the City Planning Commission.
No, I think we can eliminate that.
Okay.
That was just in reference to the memo that I received in my box.
Well, it might not hurt to talk about it anyhow,
okay.
just for the future, if you'd like. I mean, it's your item, so we can always, if you don't want to talk about it when we get to it, we can do that too. And then we have backyard chickens, the Broyhill truck, and dogs on the beach.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Anybody else got anything?
No.
Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned at 5:59. Yep. Time to start. It is Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, 6 p.m. This Board of Commissioners regular meeting is called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks,
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Downthard.
Here.
Commissioner Hodges, will you lead us in invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Thank you. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, what a wonderful city you have given us to live in and to take care of and to be part of. We ask your blessings on all the commissioners here tonight, as well as all those in attendance. We ask that you take care of all the citizens of Madeira Beach as we make decisions affecting Madeira Beach and all that live here. May we keep you front and center. It is in your name we do pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First is approval of the agenda. Is there, has everyone had a chance to go over it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you'd like to pull? Okay, I would like to pull number 7, A and B, and take those to a workshop. I guess I should have moved those to the workshop when we were doing the agenda setting. That's ordinance 2018 and 2019 regarding landscape fences, gates, hedges, and walls. I think we need further discussion on these if we can take that to a workshop.
I'm good with that.
And also 2019, and that's just, it's a continuation of that same thing. It's just some other parts of that ordinance, a continuation on it.
We need to add that to the agenda setting, right?
I'll make sure it gets.
The workshop.
Okay.
Workshop.
Oh, workshop.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the following changes, moving 7A and 7B from the agenda to the workshop.
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Downthard,
Yes.
Commissioner Price. Yes. Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next is proclamations and presentations.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a resolution involving Disabled American Veterans Day 2020. If I may, I'll read it into the record.
Yes, please.
Okay. Honoring the 100th anniversary of Disabled American Veterans, whereas Disabled American Veterans, DAV, was founded by World War I veterans on September 25th, 1920, and was chartered by an act of Congress on June 17th, 1932. Whereas in 2020, DAV celebrates 100 years of serving veterans of the armed forces, their families, and survivors, and their communities. Whereas DAV is dedicated to a single purpose, empowering veterans to lead high-quality lives with respect and dignity. Whereas DAV accomplishes this by ensuring veterans and their families have access to the full range of benefits available to them by fighting for their interests of America's injured heroes and by educating the public about the needs of veterans transitioning back to civilian life. Whereas DAV provides free and professional assistance to veterans and their families in obtaining benefits and services provided by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and other agencies. Whereas DAV also provides outreach concerning its programs and services to the American people generally and to disabled veterans and their families specifically. Whereas DAV represents the interests of disabled veterans, their families, and widowed spouses, and their orphans before the federal government as well as the state and local governments. Whereas DAV has fought tirelessly for the equal access to critical VA caregiver benefits and services for several disabled veterans of all generations, resulting in legislation to expand eligibility to those injured prior to September 11th, 2001 as part of the VA Mission Act, and whereas DAV co-presents the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic and National Disabled Veterans TEE Tournament, has organized the nationwide DAV Transportation Network to provide free transportation for veterans, the VA facilities for their appointments, operates an active charitable service trust offering thousands of hours of service to our veterans and communities, offers veterans, transitioning military members, and spouses access to employers throughout its nationwide job fair program, provides emergency assistance to veterans in need of the DAV Disaster Relief Program, and operates the Jesse Brown Memorial Youth Scholarship Program to contribute to the lives of young Americans. Whereas DAV Department of Florida and the 65 chapters across our state demonstrate their unending commitment to ill and injured veterans of all generations and conflicts. Whereas the City of Madeira Beach is proud to honor these members of the disabled American veterans. Now, therefore, I, John Hendricks, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, do hereby proclaim September 25th as Disabled American Veterans Day in Florida and commend its observance to all its citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Next, we have funding projects for the City of Madeira Beach, Representative Webb.
I don't see the representative here as yet, so
Okay. We'll come back when.
I know she wanted to be here, but I know their schedules are always tight, so.
Okay, that's fine. We'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment on anything that is not on this agenda tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do have an email comment that was on items 7A and 7B, which we moved to workshop. So I thought I'd read it now, and then we could always read it again at the workshop, if that's okay. This is from Mr. Richard Lewis, 561 Crystal Drive. I believe the item descriptions and the ordinance information may be interchanged. In any event, suggest the last sentence of the proposed section 82-2, hedges can be installed with or in lieu of fences and must meet the same height restrictions as fences and walls, be deleted as it is a requirement statement and not a definition as covered in section 110-446. Thanks for your consideration, Dick Lewis. And the other two comments I have through email are involving item 10A.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Next is public hearings. With that, we will go on to Ordinance 2020-20, amending Section 2-151 of the Code of Ordinances to amend the titles of administrative departments of the City of Madeira Beach. First reading, public hearing. Mr. Daniels?
Mayor, may I go ahead and read that ordinance by title?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is ordinance 2020-20, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Section 2-151 of the Code of Ordinances to amend the titles of administrative departments of the City of Madeira Beach and providing for an effective date. There was a reading of ordinance 2020-20 by title only.
Is there any comment by the commission?
Well, I guess I have a question. If you turn to page 16, where the ordinance is there any specific reason why we took out the language under the direction and supervision of the city manager? Or is that just kind of redundant, or? Yeah.
These are changes that you're seeing in red is the changes that I have made or suggested. The ones that are in red, the ones that are in black are the ones that, how it came to me before I made these suggested changes. And I made those changes because of the fact that that particular section didn't refer to the city manager, it just referred to the administrative departments. And so I thought it would be clearer if we took out that language relative to under the direction. So that's the reason. I mean, if you want to add it back in, we can add it back in. These are my suggested changes that went to the city clerk when I had been provided the ordinance.
Well, I just knew that there was some discussion about why isn't the city clerk on here when she's got a department, and the answer was because the city clerk isn't under the city manager. So I don't know if that makes it worse to remove that or make it clearer to the people. You looked at it, and you're the city attorney. I just didn't know why. But
I just thought it would be clear. And
yeah.
so these are administrative departments of the city. They're not administrative departments of the city manager. They're the entire city. They may be under his direction, but they are administrative departments of the entire city. And I just thought that that would be clearer.
Well, then we do need to put the city clerk in.
The city clerk is not currently in the code as the way it reads right now, under that section 2-151.
Right. So if we take out the language under the direction of supervision of the city manager, do we then now have to include the clerk as one of our departments? Is one of my questions. I don't know.
Right, and that was the reason that I brought it up the last time, because it is a department of your city. You do have individuals working in the city clerk's office. It is a department, and so that's why I had suggested to be added. I understand the discussion that took place, and that's why I did not make that suggestion in the list. I frankly think that it should be in the list, but
You can add it as a department of the city.
I think we should add it as a department of the city if we take out that language that you suggested we take out.
I would agree, and it should be added as number 10, city clerk's office or city clerk.
Yeah. Okay, that was my only, I couldn't reconcile it in my head, but. So everybody else is included from what I see.
So is that the only change?
Yes, sir.
Just to add city clerk? Can I have some direction on this? Should we go ahead and, I know I need to open this for public comment, but will we need to go ahead and take a vote on this tonight, although we're putting that change in?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, the floor is open for public comment on this item. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 2020-20, setting forth the administrative departments of the city.
And adding the city clerk.
And adding the city clerk to the list.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next is the consent agenda. Does any member want to pull an item?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to pass the, approve the consent agenda.
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next is unfinished business, contracts and agreements. First is approval of the $58,500 proposal with Cardinal to do a high-dry boat storage facility feasibility study.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we're here to discuss the feasibility study for the high and dry. As we talked about last week, I had asked Cardinal to perform a feasibility study to develop a full cost and revenue analysis to aid the city in its decision on whether to continue to pursue the marina development. Cardinal was selected as the engineering consultant for various disciplines on with RFQ 2003 for professional services, and that selection process followed Florida state statutes for procurement of professional services, commonly referred to as CC&A Act, and that is the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act. The scope includes a feasibility study, review of existing conceptual plan, cost analysis, and a discounted cash flow analysis. There are some additional services that are also included in the proposal that may be necessary depending on findings of the review of the existing site. The scopes of services will not exceed $37,990. If additional services are needed, they shall not exceed $15,180. Any additional services will be brought to the Commission for approval before starting on that work. And so staff is requesting $58,500, which includes the scope of services and additional services outlined in the proposal, and that number also includes a 10% contingency for unforeseen items.
Any questions from the Commission?
Nope. I'm glad we're moving forward.
Good. Any public comment on this item?
Jeff Brooks, 425 150th Avenue, Unit 2205. So during the roundtable meeting regarding the marina audit, the ex-manager of the marina stated to me that he has been asking for approval from the Commission to get security cameras for the past 7 years. At one of the last meetings that I attended, I asked where were we on those cameras, and I was told it was going to happen, and they were going through a bid process, but the cameras would be in very shortly. It has been well over a month since I've been here. I certainly hope those cameras are somewhere nearby. If anyone votes to spend any money on this feasibility studies while we still cannot figure out how to get security cameras that should have been in 7 years ago, I just don't understand it. We really need to get our priorities straight and consider doing some of the right things at the current marina that we've got before we get involved in some sort of high and dry. I personally, as a city taxpayer, have a zero interest in seeing any of my tax dollars being used towards this high and dry. And it's my understanding that it would take city dollars to make this happen from previous views on this subject. If none of these first two reasons I have given you resonate, then in the year of 2020 and the coronavirus pandemic, where this city is way out of budget and all the shortfalls, how the heck are we writing a check for $58,000 and feeling okay about it? Now, I realize that you guys ran, especially you, Mr. Mayor, on this high and dry, and I hate people that come up here and say why you can't do something without giving you an idea about how to do it. So I got an idea. And I had some help on this, so I'm going to give a shout out to one of my fellow condo associates. Why not offer a land lease to the entire marina for public bid by a private developer operator to construct, operate, and maintain a restaurant and marina with high and dry storage facility or some other combination thereof? A bid submission would include funding for the city of Madeira Beach to utilize a consultant to help the commissioners evaluate each bid. The private developer operator is a better arbitrator of value than a public government entity. If there are no bids, maybe moving forward this development idea is not the right idea at the present time. There'd be no need to hire a consultant at taxpayers' expense. The risk associated with such a development would be borne by a private entity, not the city of Madeira Beach. Proposed land lease payments could be compared to the present net contribution of the marina operation to determine if proceeding with such a development is in the best interest of the city of Madeira Beach. I got to tell you guys, after Doug and I sat through that meeting, I really have a hard time with the stomach on this one. Sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have two, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
The first one being from Larry Rilofs, Roelofs. I apologize if I messed that up. The BOC, why is this feasibility study not going out for bids in accordance with Section 2-182 of the City Code when the cost is above $15,000? Why did the cost study go from $50,000 to $58,500? Why does the feasibility study not include traffic analysis along 150th Ave, noise impact of lift machines to neighborhood, impact to home values next to high and dry metal shed? Why no cost analysis of payback of loan for building cost or how many years before the metal shed begins to generate revenue for the city? Why no analysis of revenue that is generated by other high and dry facilities nearby and their profit margin, and is their capacity at 100% or lower? If revenue is so important, why not seek other streams, i.e. city taxes on hotel room charges, as other cities do, insist on fair share of bed tax from the county, seek grants, etc.? Last and most important, why isn't the city canvassing the citizens to see if they want their city to add another loan burden? And then this comment is from Mr. Bill Gay. High and dry storage. I have several concerns about the high and dry facility and feasibility procurement. This first involves the manner in which the procurement is being handled. The city code clearly states the city shall be required to advertise and seek sealed bids from bidders for all contracts wherein the city shall be obligated to pay a sum in excess of $15,000. The commission is being asked to approve a $58,000 feasibility study contract that has not been procured via a solicitation for competitive bids. Failure to use the approved bidding process may subject the city to costly and lengthy litigation. Second, the Tom Stewart Causeway is billed as a portal to the city. Recent hotel and condo development plans will be revisualized. The entry to the city is a massive metal structure on the causeway, the image the city and its citizens would like to project. Third, the causeway is being transformed from a zone of dilapidated strip commercial occupancies to a residential area of condos and hotels. An industrial-type building, and the noise, traffic congestion, and pollution generated by the high and dry will distract from the modernization of the causeway as a residential gateway.
Thank you. Yes, Bob.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. Ever since I've been to the city, there's been discussion about this high and dry and about the marina and what we can do to improve it. I believe that the reason for this feasibility study is to see if it's feasible to do an upgrade on the marina, the restaurant, the high and dry, that type of thing. It's a feasibility study. That's what we're paying these people to do. And I think we need to go through it so we can end this discussion. Either it's going to be feasible or it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I guess I have one thing, and I don't typically like to respond to public comment because that gives our citizens a chance to comment, and I don't want to get in the habit of responding to them, but I'm under the impression that the bid process that we did, and Jamie mentioned the bid number, and so I don't know how much value that criticism has. And my personal thought is we can make a really beautiful high and dry and bring in some money, and we do know that there are other high and dries in the area that are totally maxed out and raking in a lot of money. So that's why we thought we'd see if this was feasible to begin with. So I'm all for it. That's all.
Joe.
I've got just one thing to add. First and foremost, I agree with you. Jamie, actually, I like answering questions I think we should try to do that more often if it's a pretty straightforward question, and I've got two of them. The first is on the bid process. Jamie, did we put this out to bid?
This consultant was selected during that RFQ process that I brought to you guys February or March or so, and that was selecting of professional services, which included engineering, architecture, and landscape architecture, to be on board to do, to be able to have someone on board for us to utilize for projects like this without having to go through the bid process every time. And City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, but CCNA, it trumps the city's ordinance.
You are going through that process if you do the CCNA. So I'm comfortable with the process that we've gone through. You've selected these types of companies doing engineering, architecture, and now under those processes through the CNA, you're basically establishing a work order system. You would be issuing a work order for this from one of the selected companies that you selected through that CCNA process that happened, I think it was in March or April, not February. But
so my question then is, and I get that part. We spent 3 years looking the other way whenever bid processes came up, and I just want to make sure we're doing it correctly. I know we've done a lot of engineering projects here, and we haven't followed any of the guidelines of CCNA up to this point, and I want to make sure that we're doing that. I do have a little issue, and maybe it's just my personal issue, because in my reading of CCNA, we can have selected preferred vendors. But once we have a bid that's going out over $15,000, we have to put that out to bid, right? I mean, I can't imagine, is there only one vendor on that list that can, accommodate this, or do we just shut out every other vendor for particular projects? I thought it was, okay, if we had a project that went under $15,000, we have an approved guy that we can come in, okay, it's a $12,000 deal, we've already approved him, it's great. But I thought anytime we did anything over $15,000, that we had to go out, I mean, I thought it was a requirement for us to go out to bid. Again, I know it's been bypassed in the past and it's driven me bananas before, and I've spoken out about it incessantly. But where are we at with that, Tom? I mean, isn't that part of the, once it hits 15 grand, or once it hits, there's a number that's involved, right? I mean, and what is it?
We have a code, but doesn't apply to every single, bid, I guess.
Right, there are some provisions. The whole code was not read. It's not part of the charter. It's part of Code of Ordinances on 182. I was just going to pull it up, but it does state in there the acceptances under general law, and also if this commission votes on that item over $15,000, which it's in front of you now, which would also, fit the bill. But it is under state law, which I'm not sure in our code it says general law, Tom.
That's what it is, the state law.
Okay, but with CCNA, it's CCNA, right? That's the code, right? What is that number? There's a number. Is it 100 grand? Is it?
2 million, isn't it?
No,
It depends.
definitely lower than that.
They just increased it in July. They just increased it recently. The construction estimate would be, I think it's 5 million now. And for the design services,
that's the one. Okay.
Design services, they just bumped it up to 300,000.
I believe it's 300.
It's 300. Okay, so it was below that. Okay, I just want to make sure that we've battered things around here before. I'm all for a feasibility study. I want to see if this works. I want to see if it's something in the right direction. But I do want to bring up also something that Jeff brought up, which, we've been bouncing around, and obviously everybody knows my fondness for the Marina investigation, or whatever the heck it was at that time. But the cameras are something that's a pretty big deal, because we've been talking about this for a long time. And I know that that's another thing that then we tried to lump it in with, and this is going back to when our former finance director was here, we were going to lump it in for a group of citywide cameras. We were going to buy it, but we already had picked a vendor. So, and it was going to go over 15 grand, and we already picked a vendor to do it. So, again, I'm going to be a stickler about dotting the I's and crossing the T's from here on in, because I really tried to hold people accountable for it my first year here, and we're not going to slack on it now. Do we have a plan for cameras at the marina?
Yes, we do. That was a project that Walt did have, and I am looking for a system at the marina that can later on be part of a bigger plan. But if we have to go out for the RFP ourselves, we're doing it. We looked at it, piggybacking onto some accounts, and right now we're writing the RFP to do the whole thing.
Okay, so we're putting off I think Jeff makes a great point. I think that that's something we should, I mean, we were going through that list of things that had to be done in order to make the marina better. So I would really like to get those cameras done. I think for the safety and everything else that's been done, I think that that's something we ought to look at, and let's try to get that done. But and I do take to heart when that everybody's not. We knew this going in, that everybody's not going to be happy with a high and dry there, and I get it. Not in my backyard. I get the whole thing, but I think that's kind of what this feasibility study is for. Let's see what it produces. There's no hammers getting out. We're not starting to build anything yet. Let's see what it produces and what kind of revenue can we generate it from it. And frankly, if it's not going to be worth our while, I think the project doesn't work and we go build a parking garage down in Johns Pass. I mean, we'll take the money that we're out of earmarked for that. But I do agree. I do think I would like to. I don't know if we can do this now, but I'd like to bring that camera idea up for the next workshop, and let's get kind of it can't be that much money. I mean, how many cameras do we need? Right? I mean, what are we talking? We're talking $5 grand, maybe?
I think it was closer to 15.
Just the marina?
for just the marina.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, I would like to discuss it at the next workshop, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, thanks. Sorry, guys. I didn't
Yeah,
mean to-
that's great. Also, and to answer your other question, we have already talked about, myself and Bob Daniels have talked about the possibilities of a private venture in there. We have looked at a high drive facility that is totally automated, doesn't use tow motors. It's all electronic. It's robotic. Picks up the boat, they punch in the bay it's going to, it's all electric. It picks up the boat, takes it up, puts it in its spot. So we're not just going to all of a sudden build a metal shed down there for this to go in. And I hope people get on board and help us build an attractive high drive facility, something we can all be proud of. It's not going to be a big metal shed. I don't want an ugly metal shed at the marina myself. So it will be a nice facility when and if we build it. And it won't have tow motors going all over making noise. You're going to have more noise from diesel trucks going up and down 150th than you'll ever get from the marina. So give us a chance to get this thing going. We're not going to be foolish about it. So that's my 2 cents worth. Is there any other comment? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the bid proposal, or the proposal to Cardno to do a high and dry boat storage facility feasibility study.
Do I have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews? Vice Mayor Andrews?
I heard you. No.
Wake up.
Yes, City Clerk.
Commissioner Douther?
No.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
Motion carried 4-1.
Next on new business, Resolution 2020-17. It's a resolution supplementing Resolution 2015-22 adopted on August 11th of 2015, authorizing the issuance not to exceed $4,442,000 stormwater system refunding revenue bond, Series 2020, for the purpose of refinancing the city's outstanding stormwater revenue bond, Series 2015, and paying related costs. Mr. Laughlin.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if we can turn it over to the city attorney to read the ordinance, please.
Okay.
This is Resolution 2020-17, a resolution of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, supplementing Resolution 2015-22 adopted August 11, 2015, authorizing the issuance of a not to exceed $4,442,000 stormwater system refunding revenue bond, Series 2020, for the purpose of refinancing the city's outstanding stormwater system revenue bond, Series 2015, and paying costs related thereto, subject to the satisfaction of certain conditions contained herein, providing a backup covenant to budget and appropriate legally available non-ad valorem revenues of the city as additional security for such bond, fixing certain terms and details of such bond, authorizing the private negotiated sale of such bond to Regions Equipment Finance Corporation pursuant to the terms and conditions described herein, selecting a paying agent and a bond registrar, making such determinations as are required to afford such bond bank qualified status, authorizing other required actions, and providing an effective date. That was a reading of Resolution 2020-17 by title only.
Mr. Laughlin.
Sure. So interest rates are in today's market extremely low, so we wanted to take advantage of opportunities. So this was a refinancing opportunity that was raised. This results in approximately 16,000 of savings annually in debt service. The rate that we have been paying on this particular issuance was 2.59%, and what we were receiving from the existing financing institution, Regions, that we had this banknote with, was 1.73%. So that's about 86 basis points better, and like I said, results in $16,000 of savings. So there's a number of options here. We could play the market and think that interest rates are going to continue to decline and hold. If I had a crystal ball and I knew that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. So at this point, an interest rate of 1.73% is strong. We saw the savings and decided to refinance, and this would be a current refunding, meaning that we can refund the bonds in a tax-exempt refunding currently. So the closing would take place on October 1st, 2020. So this would be the first day of the next fiscal year. And I also have the bond counsel that helped put the deal together, as well as the financial advisor. They're virtually attending this meeting on the Zoom call. So between the three of us, we can address any specific questions you might have relating to this refunding.
Well, I understand this will result in, over time, about $150,000 savings to the city, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to hear.
No, I don't have any questions. Andrew, nice job. Thank you.
Andrew, there wasn't a crystal ball left in your office?
I looked, I couldn't find any. But I mean, you can't argue with the rate.
No. I think this is great. You're right. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with interest rates at the moment. And I think anything we can do to try to repair this and kind of lessen our load, 1,000% for. Nice work.
Appreciate it.
Public comment? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to resolve or approve Resolution 2020-17 for the Stormwater System Refund and Revenue Bond.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next is Planning Board appointments. City Clerk?
I learned today that there's 5 vacancies. We had another person that, member to the board, that resigned yesterday. And so there's going to be 5. Marilyn Rappa, she resigned. So Patty is distributing a sheet, and you can just pick each person, and we'll read it into the record, everybody that you choose, and pick 5 people to fill the seat, and the ones with the most points, we put them in those seats. And you can assign the years to them after.
Got a question. Is Robert Preston on both the Planning Commission and the Civil Service Commission?
Yes.
I thought that they could not be on 2. You have told us in the past that that cannot happen.
The former city attorney read it differently than the current city attorney, and he researched it and saw it differently. Would you like to explain that, City Attorney Trask?
I don't remember the email that I've sent on this particular issue. Do you have that available? We can take a look at that.
Go pull it up out of my email.
I don't remember if the analysis was set forth in it. This was some time ago when you had asked me to do that, so I don't specifically have a recollection as to the reasoning or the thought process behind it. So I'd like to see that before I opine on it tonight.
Yes.
Commissioner Douther, I was on 4 different boards at the same time.
Mr. Mayor, I know that is true, but what the city clerk came and said, if you're on one of the 2 boards that is in the charter, which is the Planning Commission or the Civil Service, then you cannot be on any other committee. And then some people had to drop off of committees because of that. That's why I'm asking that question. Some people got promoted on to like the Planning Commission and they had to drop off of other committees. So I didn't know this had changed since it was, she was saying, since it was in the charter, that couldn't happen. But yes, you were on a bunch of committees, but you weren't on the Civil Service or the Planning Commission at the same time, were you?
I was on the Civil Service Commission. I've never been on the planning.
Mayor, when Deputy Clerk Patty returns, I'll go and look for the email.
Okay. I need to get some clarification on this voting. Do you want the...
You want check marks? I put check marks.
You want the highest number?
Pick 5 people, and
check marks.
the ones with the most points across will be the 5 people. Does that sound okay?
That'll work.
So you just need a check. You
Yes.
just need a check mark.
So no ranking, we just check mark 5 people? And we'll
Yes,
get it.
sir.
Okay, that's fair enough. Absolutely. That works for there.
If I may, I think you have to have some type of a ranking out of that. Otherwise, if you have somebody that's a stronger candidate over somebody else out of the 5, for it to last through the cycle, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think again, you can do it any way you want. Maybe I'm just used to the way it's been done in the past, so.
Yeah, we've got 5 spots here to fill.
Right.
I don't know if we want to get into that kind of minutia.
I would think we just check in the 5 we want. And the tally is a vote for each one from each commissioner.
And maybe there's a runoff, you know,
Okay.
but that's like worst case scenario.
Did someone want to make a public comment?
Hi, Mike Noble, Chairman of the Planning Commission. So I would like to just ask that the members that are reapplying for you to consider them. It's hard to get a board to commission together and have some continuity. So I'd really like to see Mary Ann Hearn, Ray Kerr, and Michael Wyckoff reappointed. They're all doing a fantastic job. And then it's up to you on the other ones to decide, or it's up to you on all of them. But and if it comes down to Robert Preston leaving one of them, I would like to have him stay on my planning commission. Any questions, or? All right, thank you.
Who are the members of the planning?
Right now I have Mary Ann Hearn, Ray Kerr, and Michael Wyckoff. I would like to see them, they're reapplying. I'd like to see them stay if possible. And Robert Preston stay on the planning commission. I guess it would be up to him if he had to resign from one, but it would be my choice to have him stay. They all are very involved and doing a great job. And then the other kind of criteria, if you could look at district diversity, I don't know if they put that on there. At one point, we had 3 from District 1. And then, you know, whatever their career, retired career, or if they're business owners would be my second criteria. And then long-term resident over a shorter-term resident. But other than that, we'll keep doing the best job we can do for you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm on the list.
Okay.
I'm Anne Marie Brooks. And I am a resident of Madeira Beach. I live at 425 150th Avenue. I've been here for 5 years. Intend to stay until the day we get in an RV and can't go anymore. I have worked with planning commissions and zoning, so I'm very familiar with it. I served on the budget committee last year and actually resigned because I was told I could not serve on it and this one. So I'd very much like to serve the community on this planning commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ray Kerr, 583 Johns Pass Avenue. I'm currently on the board, but I'm up for reapplication and like your support. Have any questions? I am a business owner and in the construction industry, if that matters. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Commissioner Douthrop, are you ready?
How do you want this? Just the people that I picked?
Yes, please.
Okay, I picked Henry Bartels, Ray Carr, Mary Ann Hearn, Eric Gaither, and Anne Marie Brooks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Patty, was that 4 or 5 he picked? Was it? Okay.
All right, so first I'm going to read the commissioners and who they chose, and then I will tell the tally. So Commissioner Price was Michael Wyckoff, Richard Willis, Marianne Hearn, Eric Gaither, and Andrew Blazer. Commissioner Hodges was Hank Bartel, Mike Wyckoff, Ray Kerr, Eric Gaither, and Anne Marie Brooks. Vice Mayor Andrews was Hank Bartel, Mike Wyckoff, Ray Kerr, Eric Gaither, and Anne Marie Brooks. Commissioner Douthroff was Hank Bartel, Ray Kerr, Marianne Hearn, Eric Gaither, and Marianne Brooks. Mayor Hendricks was Hank Bartel, Michael Wyckoff, Richard Willis, Eric Gaither, and Andrew Blazer. The 5 candidates that were chosen was Eric Gaither, Hank Bartel, Michael Wyckoff, Marianne Brooks, oh, okay. Okay, so Hank Bartel got 4 points, Michael Wyckoff got 4 points, Ray Kerr got 3 points, Eric Gaither got 5 points, and Marianne Brooks got 3 points. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, Anne Marie Brooks. Okay, thank you.
Can you run down them real quick? I missed one here.
Sure. Let's see. So I can go from Eric Gaither was number 1 with 5 points.
Okay.
Anne Marie Brooks was number 2 with, I'm sorry. Okay. Eric Gaither was number 1 with 5 points. Hank Bartel was number 2 with 4 points. Mike Wyckoff was number 3 with 4 points. Anne Marie Brooks was number 4 with 3 points, and Ray Kerr was number 5 with 3 points.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I can address that question now that was raised. There was an email relative to office, holding more than one office. There was an email that was sent to me in May, and the question was, based upon City Charter Section 12.2, may a planning board member also sit as a Civil Service Commission member? And then I'm just going to read the section of the City Charter that is really the issue. In the second sentence, it says, actually third sentence, members of the City Planning Commission shall hold no other city office or city employment. Subsequent to receiving the email, I asked for additional information from the city clerk's office relative to any of the legislative history, any of the minutes of prior meetings and so forth. She did significant research and found all the way back to the 1960s and 70s that the language was the same. I issued the following opinion on June 1st. Upon further review of the code and charter, it is my opinion that members of the Planning Commission are not officers of the city. Therefore, the charter does not prohibit a Planning Commission member from being on a Civil Service Commission member. And then I asked her also if there were any additional resolutions or rules that prohibited a person from being on 2 or more city boards, and there was no other resolution. So the answer to the question is you can be on both the Planning Board and the Civil Service Commission. And the reason that I was coming to that conclusion is that a city office is you as a commissioner, or the mayor. That's a city office. That would be a dual office holding violation. That's the reason why the charter talked about it.
Okay.
Since these individuals are not employees of the city and they're not sitting in one of your seats, they could sit on the Planning Commission and the Civil Service Commission. So I appreciate your indulgence while the city clerk got that email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next is the Gulf Beaches Library Board appointment. City Clerk.
In some of the discussions at the workshops, it was said that the commission has expressed an interest in perhaps choosing one of its members to serve as one of the library board members that represents the city and the Board of Commissioners. And we do have a seat. We have one member that filled a seat, I believe it was in December 2019. She filled a seat from a resignation, which was a partial term. Now, that one is up September 30th, 2020. And if the commission decides not to choose one of its members, I can advertise the position and get some applications. So I'm going to leave it up to you, what you want to do, and direct me accordingly.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I had sent out copies of minutes from one of our partner cities with the library, the town of North Reddington Beach. If you want me to read that out, it just went out this morning because we just received it, and I don't know if each one of the commissioners have had an opportunity to see it.
Yeah, please. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. As I said, this is workshop minutes from the town of North Reddington Beach, their Board of Commissioners. And the topic of discussion is really, this was on September 2nd, 2020 at 2 p.m., was the library. Mayor Queen explained that there were some discussions with other municipalities that comprise the Gulf Beaches Library regarding funding, among other possible changes. The board discussed the interlocal agreement, the funding sources, the amount of cash on hand, and the makeup of the library board and communication between representatives and member cities. The board agreed with the following recommendations. Reduce the board members from 10 to 5. The 5 members should be elected officials. There is too much cash on hand, and it should be spent on whatever the building or library needs. The third one is new interlocal agreement to be drafted by an independent party to include renewal every 5 years. I've also, on that topic, I've heard from, I believe it's Ms. Morales, who's from the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative, and she's offered to try to assist us in that regard if we decide to go that route. If the library dissolves, the fund should be returned to contributors. The footprint of the library should not be expanded, and members need to communicate with the member cities and vote according to the city's wishes. And that was the result in relation to the library. I just thought it was pertinent to be read so you all have an idea of what some of the other partner cities with us are doing, or jurisdictions.
Very much so, and I agree with that. And I think we need to get a handle on this. We need someone that's really looking out for the city's best interest, and I'd like to see a commissioner on the library board to fill this vacancy.
Well, I think it's imperative. I think, that letter basically reaffirms everything that we were talking about up here. And these are some big decisions that are, we're talking anything from dissolving it to keeping it going on a 5-year basis. There's got to be some, at least somebody that has our ears in our best interest in mind doing it. And I'm not saying any of our residents wouldn't, but let's jump back from that. But I think somebody on the board definitely needs to be a part of these discussions for sure.
Well, the discussions I have had is that each city will be putting a commissioner on the new board when we do a new interlocal agreement. And I think we need to get started now since we have a vacancy and place a city commissioner on the board, Helen Price.
Well, if you do that, then I'm going to have to get off that other. I think we have commissioners up here that aren't on any committee. So I don't want to do two. Either I can resign from the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council,
Would,
get on the library, which is fine. I'll do whatever the city needs me to do.
would you like to hear my list?
Multiple things when others aren't. So I'll leave it at that.
Let's see, what is it? Mr. Daniels is Big C, Florida League of City, Pinellas Council of Mayors,
National Council of Mayors, the Florida Council of Mayors.
Yep. Florida League of Cities, it goes on. I can't keep up with it, but,
I wasn't inferring you should do it.
Doug.
Well, I mean, that auditor selection committee's taken up a lot of my time, so, I'm looking, I think I found the person right there.
Yeah, but I think you found the person that's not on the committee yet.
Yeah. I would like to nominate, Commissioner Hodges. With her vast experience sitting on this board, I think she'd be an excellent candidate to be our library board member.
Well, I second that.
I think you could.
What's your committee? That's not a committee.
That doesn't count.
It's not a committee. I'm happy to do the library and help negotiate that agreement, with help from council, but then you're going to have to go on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Whatever. I'll do either one. I'll let you have your choice.
Come on, Nancy, be our junkyard dog.
Well, something's got to get done. Or we can talk about it more at a workshop. I don't think we have to do it tonight, but. Well, you go with the regional,
So, Commissioner Andrews.
Well, then I'll do the library then. She's going to take the regional planning. It's once a month, yeah.
There you go.
And they're super nice folks. I've only been to one meeting, but.
Do they serve lunch?
No.
Okay. I was trying to get you some lunch out of it.
They're very organized and apparently have some pretty good funding.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Helen Price for the library board.
Can I second?
I will accept.
Did you second?
I said I will accept.
You second, okay. Cool. Do we need to vote on Commissioner Price to be on the,
We can make a vote. Who is that that made the second? Okay. Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
yes. That was fun.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you for your
Thank
support.
Next is a request to replace apartment building with FEMA compliant structure. Director Portel.
Good evening. This is actually a long-awaited item, I think, for most people. This is a property that's at 306 129th Avenue in the Johns Pass Village neighborhood. The building is a 10-unit apartment that was damaged by Hurricane Irma, which was a statewide designated state of emergency. It's taken them years to sort through their insurance and to get their investors and everything lined up, and then also they've had some issues with federal regulations because there was some asbestos and there was also mold in there after all this time. The property has been sitting vacant. The city had posted it as being a dangerous building. It was uninhabitable. They originally were interested in just renovating it, but if you've seen it, you can imagine that there was nowhere near the potential for renovation within the 50% value of what was left of the value. In fact, the property had been zeroed out by the property appraiser, which gave it a 50% value of absolutely nothing. So now that they've managed to get through all their insurance and settle up all of that, they are interested in a redevelopment. Our code under section 110-96 does provide for regulations that allow a building, even though it may be non-conforming for density or height, to be built back with the same density as long if it was damaged during a state of emergency, as long as it meets some of the other conditions. For instance, the setbacks in the front and the sides and the height of the building, or they can't go above the maximum height for the district. So what they've done is they've had to come in with a redevelopment proposal. These are they go to the Planning Commission for a proposal, and then they come to the Board of Commissioners for an approval for this type of development. The purpose of the regulation, or that section in the code, is obviously to encourage people to come back with something that will meet the current standards, to go ahead and allow them to take down a building and so that they don't feel compelled to leave something up in order to preserve their density and particularly their income off of the property. So we have gone through review with them. And this is a pie-shaped lot, and the lot is large enough that it's a conforming lot in terms of its overall size, in that it is large enough to house a development that would normally be allowed in that district. However, it's not large enough to normally allow a 10-unit apartment complex to go back, so they definitely needed to go through a redevelopment process and to use this section of the code in order to get back the density that they had in the past. In this particular case, because it's a pie-shaped lot, in order to meet this, if they were to meet the side and the front setbacks, they would have to shrink the building, and because it's already in violation of side setbacks and in front, actually. And so in order for them to be able to maintain their the density and the maximum height that the district provides them, there had to be some give with, we had to shift the building a little bit. It's recommended that when you do that, we would look to see if moving the boundary actually brought, if one of those variances would be more in keeping with the standards of the neighborhood than the other. The side setbacks are 15 feet, and in a place, a neighborhood that's close, it's really advantageous to try to maintain the side setbacks because that's where the building comes most in contact with other residences. And in this neighborhood, many of the buildings are built up closer to the street anyway than what our current setbacks requirements are for the district. You've heard me talk about that before. There are some areas where our setbacks and our standards for development in these residential districts were designed for a suburban setting, and especially in Johns Pass Village, it was never a standard suburban style development. So what the staff recommended to them is that they request a variance for the front setback to bring it up more in keeping with the line of buildings along the street, and that they redesign the building a little bit to maintain the side setbacks to give protection for the neighboring buildings. That required them to go through a variance process. So when the plan board heard this item, they recommended approval with a couple of conditions. One was a condition that they also get approval for a variance before they come to you with the recommended redevelopment plan. And two, based on what the staff had recommended, that they make a commitment to demolish the existing building within 60 days of your approval. We understand that there's the potential for holdup with federal requirements because of the asbestos but my understanding is they've already addressed that. And so the staff had encouraged the Planning Commission to this condition because that anytime you have a derelict building, it draws problems. We've had a lot of trouble keeping people off of the property. The sheriff's office gets called there regularly and has to arrest people out, things of that nature. So it's always it's a nuisance. It's a attractive nuisance. It draws kids and teens, but also homeless and others who we've found squatting in the property, breaking in, tearing the fence away. So it's been a constant problem. And then additionally, like they have eventually pointed out, there were actually toxic substances in the building as well, and we'd like to get that out of the community. Preferably because the building's not in good shape before some big blow comes in and another storm, rips the rest of it apart and it ends up in somebody else's yard or house. So the Planning Commission did recommend those two conditions, the 60 days demolition and that they get the variance. We went to the special magistrate, and the special magistrate agreed with it. He carried through the 60 days recommendation, said that the variance was good as long as they proceeded with demolition in accordance with the 60 days, or as close thereafter as they can get the federal permits for demolition if there are state or federal issues holding them up. So the Planning Commission recommended 7-0 that you approve the redevelopment as proposed, and the magistrate approved the variance. You don't have a big design in front of you because the specifics of the project aren't designed. A redevelopment really only requires just a concept for size, massing, to meet a certain number of criteria. When they come back with a design, we're going to have to go through site plan process, so it'll undergo additional neighborhood review before anything is finally approved for development.
Well, I have a question. Hooray, number one, for addressing that building, because it has been empty and derelict and an eyesore for a little while, so yay, I'm moving forward with that. But in our packet on page 142 of 157, it shows like a bird's eye view of that property.
Yes.
Is that white thing the roof of the building?
Yes.
So are you telling me they want to move it closer to the...
No, it would be about the same. It's not coming closer. It's
Look at all that room.
In the back, because it's wedged. If you start moving the building back...
Not the whole building. I understand this is coming down completely and they're starting from scratch.
Yes.
So I don't understand why we have to have them put that building so close to the street when they have all that room behind them.
Right. Well, they are limited by height. They can only go 2 floors over parking.
Right.
And, to get 10 units, it looks pretty big from the air, but 10 units is quite a bit in 2 floors on that size site.
It's going to be a whole floor taller, right? Whatever they put in there.
Right. And it'll be
Maybe
the same.
Maybe that front isn't needed for the parking like it's used now.
Yeah, they have a little bit of parking on what they're proposing, but they don't have a lot because most of the parking is underneath the building.
Right.
So it'll be getting right now what you have is cars actually parking in the right-of-way. So it'll be pulling the cars definitely all the way off the right-of-way. They will be pulled further back, and most of the parking's underneath the building. I think there's 1 or 2 spaces up there, but it's entirely off the right-of-way.
Okay.
It will change the look of the front.
I want that place improved, but it just didn't seem like we needed to give a variance on something that's going to come completely down and rebuilt, and with all that room in the back. Just as a layperson looking at this.
From a building perspective, it gets more and more difficult to lay out your rooms as you start creating your building as a triangle because of access around on the inside. We went over it with them a little bit in that respect, and also what they're proposing would bring the building up in line with or behind the location of the other buildings along the street. from a planning standpoint, especially in the village or in some of our older neighborhoods, I would recommend moving buildings up closer to the street because it makes your streets safer in the end. When people are actually watching the street, they aren't set too far back. And that's inconsistent with the way some areas have been developed here, and actually it limits us a lot that we have such significant setbacks, for instance, along Golf in some places, and we end up with all of our parking in the front yard instead of forcing them to put their parking in back. It's just better for pedestrian access and movement and better overall quality of the neighborhood if you've got your buildings and your people up front and the parking underneath or in the back. So we thought it was an opportunity to move along that direction.
Thank you.
Well, it'll certainly clean up that neighborhood. Will these be long-term rentals?
You know, I doubt that. They're not required to. This is an R3 neighborhood, so they are allowed to do tourist accommodations. Okay. And I expect that that's what will happen. They'll be pretty small units.
Yeah, I was wondering if you knew the square footage of each unit.
I don't.
Because that in itself, depending on the size, they could come in on the setback some, but I just would like to see that building torn down and something done with it.
We've been anxious about that. It's been a long-term project for me, following it around and prompting, but many of us has been available or involved in it over the months. It's been 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, if they got a variance, then, you know, God bless them.
Well, yeah, we did have an extra hearing because of that.
Okay.
Yeah, if the planning commission is taking a look at it and the special magistrate's good with it, I'm good with it.
Yeah, it's been through 2 hearings up to this point for your recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank you, Linda, because that one of the calls that I would normally get at least once a week since I've been here is that building. So I'm glad to tie in not only of getting it changed and the commitment to get it changed, but also having that time limitation of 60 days once they get their approval from you all.
I want it to come down.
And we just need to hold them to it and get it done.
Yep.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Nice job.
So do we need to have a vote?
Public comment?
Yeah, we've got to have
sorry.
public comment. Is there any public comment on this? Do I have a motion?
I'll do a motion to allow the replacement apartment building with FEMA compliant structure at 129th Avenue East. I'm sorry, 306 129th Avenue East here in Madeira Beach, as described.
Is there a second?
No second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowster,
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Next is staff reports. Mr. Laughlin.
So I provided in your packet information on year-to-date budget to actual by department and by fund. Happy to address any questions. We can discuss any comments you have on the information that was presented through July. It's more informational purposes for you. What I did want to spend a few minutes of my time is to address the budget process from here on out, just make sure everybody's clear in the understanding of what transpired this evening and where we need to get to the finish line to finally adopt the budget for FY 2021. So what we did is we had a budget hearing earlier this evening and adopted a tentative millage rate and a tentative budget. When we come back for the final public hearing, which we're going to try to schedule for September 23rd, for that to adopt that millage rate and final adoption, under Florida statutes, section 200.065, depending on the amount of that millage rate, it either requires a majority vote or a or a two-thirds vote or a unanimous vote. So what we have in the millage rate of 2.875, if it's a certain percentage above the rollback rate, plus another factor, and let me pull that up, then that would require a two-thirds vote. And so the rollback rate, just so you all are clear, is 2.5973%. Then there's an adjustment for change in per capita Florida personal income. That's information that's included in the trim form. So then the majority vote for the maximum millage rate that's allowed is 2.6809. So all we need if we were going to adopt a millage rate of 2.6809 is a majority. So when we go through this process and the in the final public hearing, because our millage rate is above that, so we need a two-thirds vote up to 2.949, and we're at 2.875. So we fall in between the majority of 2.6809 and the two-thirds vote of 2.949. So what we're going to need is a two-thirds vote in order to pass that millage rate of 2.875. We didn't have that this evening, so I wanted to make sure you all are very aware and clear that that needs to happen for us to provide a final adoption of the millage rate. And City Attorney Traskey, you can also weigh in.
Yeah, so to be clear, a 3-2 vote will not pass it. So there needs to be at least a 4-1 vote to pass it when it comes back for final adoption. We're just letting you all know that in advance.
So do we need to put that on the workshop as well?
Can that be done at the workshop?
You need to
the discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
we got to figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, can we live with the 2.6875 or even our old millage rate? You recommended for holding the line on the millage rate initially.
That's right. I did not. I recommended avoiding going back to the rollback rate due to the debt service payment that will be incurred in the stormwater fund, and then that transfer that was needed of over $1 million ad valorem the ad valorem taxes has been the funding mechanism for that starting this past fiscal year when we issued those 2019 bonds, and as of current is still the planned funding mechanism for now until forward. So going back to the rollback rate, I recommended against that. I recommended at least holding firm, and the increase in the millage rate certainly helps balance the general fund budget. If you, again, just by reducing that millage rate, in essence, we're pulling more out of existing fund balance in order to balance the general fund.
Okay. The rollback rate is less than what it is today.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Because we're at 2.75 right now.
Yeah.
So either way, if we kept it the way it was originally proposed at 2.75, we still would need two-thirds vote. So we'd still need 4 out of the 5.
So in your professional opinion, we need the 2.875.
The 2.875 is what helps balance the general fund budget.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this much. I took out my trim notice at 2.75, and I got homestead exemption, blah, 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 blah. My taxes, and I don't mind saying this, to live here in Madeira Beach are $550.33. I reworked it with the 2.875, and it's a $25 increase. It goes to $575.34. And I think to ensure that stormwater payoff thing gets done, and to go forward with our high and dry and other things we want to do, I didn't mind seeing a $25 increase for me. I mean, I don't have a mansion, but I'm just saying this, I'm an example of a citizen here.
Okay. Well, we'll know what we've got to do on the next vote.
Andrew, you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you the difference in taxes from the 2.75 to the 2.875 if you want to know that. I can run that calculation real quick and get that for you.
Or we can do it at the workshop meeting if the commission prefers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need you to
Okay.
lock yourself up.
I just want to make you all very aware of what needs to happen legally for this millage rate to be adopted and ultimately conclude this process. Any questions from me on that or any of the information I presented? Otherwise, that's all I have.
No, I think you cleared some things up there. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may. Just to add on that, the 23rd is our final hearing date for the budget and the millage rate. That's
So will that be before the workshop?
Calendar. Okay.
Added today. It's on at 5:05, I think he said it at 5:05 again.
Okay, I'm not, 5:05, are you talking about PM? I mean, or?
Yeah, 5:05 PM, it was on the
Oh.
calendar given to you today.
Okay.
the 23rd is the fourth
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So we would have to do a special
an
workshop
hour?
meeting to discuss it if we're doing the 5:05 vote
Can't do
on
it.
that day.
Do you think we need an hour?
Or we could do a different
You
time.
can change it if you want to. You had last,
The special meeting is just a vote on the millage rate like we did today.
And the budget.
that's all.
Oh, and the budget.
Yes.
So maybe we do need an hour. Yeah, okay, absolutely.
Okay, if I may, I think a number of you and some of those of you that are appointed on boards that are here in the audience or newly appointed and reappointed, we do have a training that's coming up that I know the clerk will be sending out for the boards, but it's October the 14th. You can do it online through the League of Cities. We just need you to register, and the clerk will give you all that information. The commission and the department heads and managers it's mandatory for them to attend. The commission, you can attend if you want to at our meeting here in the city center. The training starts at 10 o'clock, runs from 10 to noon, and then from 1:30 to 3:30. So we'll be having that right here in the city center as well. And I do want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. And I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty. Census. If any of you have not been counted, please go to our website. We did increase from, I think it was 34% to 38%, but we should be well over 50%, and we only have until September 30th. So for those of you, Jeff, if you can get the word out in your condo and, your friends, neighbors, relatives, even if they're in a different city, they need to be counted for the city that they're in. So please get the message out. We need to be counted. We need every resident to be counted because that will help us in the future for the grants and the allocation, because most of the federal grants are allocated on a population. And so, we put a big emphasis this year, and you'll see the reports come out at the first of the month on grants and so forth, and where we are and which ones we're in line to receive and which ones we haven't received yet. But, it starts with everybody being counted. Thank you.
Bob, can we get an electronic sign? Can we borrow one from the county and put it up there?
I will
to
check on
emphasize it right there at the, on 150th.
Okay. We'll check and make sure we can get it done, but, we need to be counted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reports and correspondence. City Commission, do y'all have anything?
have something, I don't know whether it's reports and correspondence, but I started the auditor selection process with the schematic that was given to me. And I know we agreed to rate these companies 1 to 8, 8 being the highest rating and 1 being the lowest. But one of the ratings I'm supposed to be giving these people is called license. Every single one of these companies have a license. How am I going to figure out who gets the 8 and who gets the 1? I mean, can we just put a yes, 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 yes across the board? I mean, doesn't that seem a bit...
The answer is yes, you can do it that way.
Thank
Just
you.
say everybody is using the same process, you can do it that way, so it doesn't have to be counted. To do they have it or not have it, yes or no?
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say, and if that's the case, if you look at the schematic, there are numbered categories 2 through 10. Therefore, I'm rating each of these companies on number 2, number 3, number 4, all the way to 10. Like something like number 5 talks about staff and qualifications, all right? Staff qualifications and experience. I'm going to give that firm 1 number. I am not going to give the partner a number, the partner governmental expertise a number, the manager the number. I mean, I just want to make sure, because there's all these lines that I think are unnecessary on this form. And if you all have started this yet, you'll know what I'm talking about. You've done 4, okay, so you do understand. So we're giving each one of these 8 firms 9 numbers, 9 ratings. Number 2, number 3, number 4, I don't know why I started with
Down to
number
10,
2.
yeah. Mhm.
All right, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes. No, you're 100% right, yeah. I mean,
It was
those are the
blowing my
factors you're
mind.
supposed to put into it, but if you're, for number 4, for example, qualification experience, it's 1 number. It's not size of
Yeah.
firm, 8, 7, 6, 9.
No, okay.
Let's
okay.
make it, let's not hurt
I
ourselves
figured I
here.
was making more work for myself, but I didn't want to blow that process, so, okay. Thank you, that's it for me.
Good. Welcome to my world. I was going through the same thing.
I was like, this is crazy.
So, City Attorney, do you have anything for us?
Nothing today, thank you.
City Manager?
I have said my piece, thank you.
City Clerk?
Yes, reminding everyone of the town hall meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. This is September the 16th. And this is just for the public to come and ask questions and get answers. It's not a Board of Commissioners meeting. It's just a town hall meeting. And I'm here, and I think City Manager and the City Attorney, I think. And so anybody can come during that time and ask questions. And we'll
Clara,
have
so everybody
another-
knows it's a town hall for,
The
what are we
amendment, the
discussing?
citizens, yeah, the citizens to come and
But what are we discussing? What's the,
charter amendment.
there you go.
And then we'll have another one on October the 7th.
Yep.
Have-
Clara, that's at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to make sure everybody can come. Hopefully they do come. And I'm hoping that maybe for the ones that can't come, there'll be some way they can set up to call in their questions and we can answer them.
We will work on that, yeah.
Okay.
We should be able to Zoom.
He won't. He's not going to be there.
Yep.
I'll need to get that information and publish it on, republish the agenda and put that on there.
Okay.
Send that out or either by press release.
No, 16th, yeah, you're right, at least.
Okay. If there's no more business, this meeting is adjourned at 7:42.